In this skill, we will be doing an introduction to trig, and we will be studying angles in the coordinate plane, which we call in the standard position. And an angle in the standard position has its initial side on the positive x-axis. So this would be the initial side of the angle right here. And again, the initial side is on the positive x-axis. And then the terminal side is the other side of the angle, which is over here. This would be the terminal side. And it can be anywhere in the coordinate plane. If the terminal side of the angle is formed by rotating in the counterclockwise direction or going up from the initial side, that's going to be a positive angle. If the terminal side is measured by swinging down, it would be a negative angle. So here's an example of that. Here's an example of two angles that share the same terminal side, but this positive angle was rotated up from the positive axis in a counterclockwise direction. And a negative angle is formed by swinging the terminal side down from the positive x-axis in a clockwise direction. So back to our definitions, the terminal side is just the other ray. The vertex is at the origin for all angles in standard position. A reference angle is the acute angle. It's going to be a positive acute angle. Formed by the terminal side of the angle and the x-axis. So that sounds kind of confusing, so I'm going to pop in a picture. If the terminal side of the angle is in quadrant 1, the reference angle is the actual angle. So in quadrant 1, whatever the angle is, that's also the reference angle. They'll always be the same. In quadrant 2, where your angle is greater than 90, the reference angle is the acute angle formed by the terminal side and the x-axis. So it always has to be an acute angle. That would be the reference angle right there. In quadrant 3, the reference angle would be right here, and in quadrant 4, right there. So it's always the terminal side with the x-axis. It's always a positive acute angle. And then one more definition, a quadrantal angle is an angle whose terminal side is on the x or y axis. An angle whose terminal side is on the x-axis or y-axis. So some examples of quadrantal angles would be a 90-degree angle, a 180-degree angle, 270, 360, 0 would be in that list, etc. And so quadrantal angles are always multiples of 90. For our level 1 practice, you're going to be asked to draw angles with certain measures and also give their reference angle. So a 15-degree angle, first we're going to start with our axis, x and y axis. Remember that a 90-degree angle would be up here, so 15 would be about like that. And we're sort of estimating, but you want to give a pretty good estimate. And our initial side is always on the x-axis. So there's your 15-degree angle. And this angle is in quadrant 1. In quadrant 1, the reference angle always is the actual angle. Remember, I'm my own reference angle in quadrant 1. So the reference angle would just be 15 degrees because that's the acute angle. It already is an acute angle formed with the x-axis. Okay, and negative 135 for our next one, draw our axes. This time, we always put our initial side on the positive x-axis, but instead of swinging up in the counterclockwise direction, I'm going to swing down in the clockwise direction for a negative angle. Now, if this is 90, negative 90, and this is negative 180, I'm somewhere in between there, and I'm actually right in the middle of those two. So that would be negative 135 degrees. And this landed in quadrant 3. Now the reference angle is the acute angle formed by the terminal side and the x-axis. So it's going to be this angle right here. And if I have negative 135 and then it's up to 180, that would be 45 degrees right there. And a reference angle is always positive. Okay, for my next example, we have a 400-degree angle. We start with our initial side on the positive x-axis always. We're going in the counterclockwise direction for a positive angle. Now if I make a full circle, I'm back to where I started, and that would be 360 degrees. So 360 is going all the way around the circle. But I'm going to go even further than that, another 40 degrees, so about to here. And I ended up in quadrant 1. But the reference angle is just going to be an acute angle formed by the terminal side and the x-axis, which is only going to be 40 degrees. Now for the next one, negative 205, we always put our initial side on the positive x-axis, and now I'm going to swing down in the clockwise direction, negative 205. If this is negative 180 right here, and this is negative 270, my terminal side will be about right there. So that's negative 205. And it landed in quadrant 2. The reference angle this time, the acute angle formed by the terminal side and the x-axis, the difference between 205 and 180 is 25 degrees. So the reference angle would be 25 degrees. Another thing I wanted to mention in this skill is we are going to be memorizing the entire unit circle. So it's a good idea to start working on that. I'll post blank unit circles in Schoology so you can time yourself filling it out. I want you guys to be able to do it in 3 minutes. So for now, we can start to at least familiarize ourselves with the angles. We talked about quadrantal angles, which are on the x or y axis. So our quadrantal angles are 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees, 360, and then every multiple of 90. So it's good to get familiar with those, and then you're going to be memorizing all of these other degree measures in both degrees and radians, as well as these ordered pairs. So it's a good idea to start to familiarize yourself with the unit circle.